I made this dress for New Year's celebration. It's designed to hug the bodies while being loose around the hips. The skirt is half circle and flows nicely. And it has pockets. The waistline is reinforced with 2 layers of fabric and a layer of stretchy interfacing. Pull in the waist even more to have that corset effect. Seam ease is -4 cm at the waistline and -6 cm at the chest. It's designed to be made out of the stretchy fabric that has elasticity coefficient of at least 0.77 or less. Mark the interval of 10 cm or 10 inch and stretch. And it is 13 cm. 10 cm divided by 13 is 0.77. From inside out, the waistline, neckline, arm size are overlocked to keep the area as stretchy as possible. And on the sides, I machine stitch first and finish the edges on the overlocker. If you don't own an overlocker, that's fine. You can use a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. A quick test. Zigzag short stitch, zigzag long stitch, long straight stitch, short straight stitch. And by the way, you should always slightly stretch the fabric while straight stitching, ruthlessly destroying the fabric. Well, I was a bit too violent. The short zigzag stitch on the very top was not supposed to snap, but I literally destroyed the fabric. The long straight stitch, by the way, was supposed to snap, and it did, quite easily to be honest. To make this dress, you need stretchy fabric. I use velvet that has its individual quirks. More on that later. Because my fabric stretches both ways, for the waistline I cut a piece perpendicular to the grain line for decorative purpose. I would definitely make it out of the knit fabric for a casual wear, just couldn't find the fabric yet. Stretchy, thin cotton for pockets, fusible stretchy interfacing, fusible interfacing tape, 5 spools of threads if using an overlocker, can do with 3 if you thread 2 additional bobbins. Please pretend they are in the matching color. Or 1 very large spool if using only a sewing machine. For the back loops and rope you can use either ribbons or main fabric. Bear in mind, the ribbons have rough texture. It makes pulling in the waistline a bit tedious, to say the least. Make a rope out of the main fabric and listen what a huge difference it makes. I'm making loops out of the ribbon and back lace out of the primary fabric as I'm not planning to snatch the waistline. However, if you do, for both I recommend to use slippery fabric. And you need a pattern. I will include the link to my digital PDF pattern down below. Select the size you require. Print the first page at 100% scale first. There are 2 squares. Use a ruler or a tape measure or any other reliable source to check that the scale is correct before printing the rest. And this is how the pattern layout should look like. All you have to do is cut 1 edge, align lines and shapes, and tape or glue. But you can do this however you want. The seam allowances on my pattern are 7 mm and 1 cm. I just don't like having extra fabric, but feel free to add extra seam allowance. Before using a new pattern or fabric, I highly suggest to make a mock-up out of a cheap fabric with similar properties. A lazy option is to add 3 cm or an inch to all seams, cut the primary fabric and baste. If you need to loosen something, you have that extra fabric. And now that testing out of the way, cut all the pattern pieces and organize them neatly on the floor. It makes sewing process so much easier. Remember I said the velvet has its own quirks? Pile fabric has a fuzzy, hair-like surface. depending on the pile direction, facing up or down. The color vibrancy differ, so be consistent when laying down and cutting the pattern pieces. Next, interface the front midsection panel and pocket openings on both back and front skirt. However, if you are using fluffy slippery fabric just like I do, grab a vintage chair because you don't own an ironing board, switch on an iron that can compete with Nokia on durability. Grab a scrap of velvet fabric, place midsection on top, fluff to fluff, then place the interfacing and cover with a cotton cloth. Press and hold. And now that everything is prepared, I would like to time a sewing process. And let's go. Grab the front top, interfaced midsection, and midsection piece that is placed behind. Pin right sides together and wrong sides together. And overlock. Align the seam with the edge. Press all seams that are sewn, always. However, my fabric hates ironing, so I will avoid doing this if possible. But again, it's just a quirk of the fabric. If your fabric can tolerate the heat, please press. The fabric is so slippery that I have to stitch the sides just to hold two layers together. Don't forget, stitch length is 2. Slightly stretch while stitching. For loops, I've decided to use store-bought ribbon. Cut 10 5cm long pieces. Fold in half and pin right sides together at the distance of 1.5 cm from each other. With the pointed end, I secure the rounded loop in place. Checking if loops align, and I'm happy with the result. Next, just stitch loops in place. Moving to the next part, that is serging all 4 shoulder seams to finish the raw edges. Place right sides together and stitch on the sewing machine. There's a mark at 1 cm on the machine, stitch along it. And by now I'm working for 1 hour and 5 minutes. 6 minutes. Grab a sleeve, place right sides together, align notches, pin and overlock. Oh wait, it's not as simple. If you look down, you'll see a natural body formation that rises above the pectoralis major. To remove the excess fabric, we have darts. But in this case, we'll try to hide all those extras under the flabby wings. There should be a good use of them, am I right? This bit is longer than this, so add a stitch at 5 mm from the edge. Stitch length 4. From the side seam to the first notch. Then gather it so it fits the sleeve. Press those gathers flat. I didn't do that just because the velvet would be ruined. I just stretched the sleeve to fit. For smaller sizes, it is kind of okay-ish. And now you can place right sides together, align notches, pin and overlock. To hide the thread chain, I prefer to use large needle used for knitting. Fold the whole upper part, align side seams and pin. I highly recommend to baste at armpits 2.5 cm to each side, which is 1 inch, to align the seams. And at corset midsection so nothing moves. I hand baste using a diagonal stitch pattern. This will help ensure that the fabric stays secure as I sew. I'll baste one side and frequently pin the other to demo the difference. At first, stitch on the sewing machine at 1 cm. Check if you are happy with everything, and if you are satisfied, serge the edge. Press the seam allowance towards the back. May I now present the difference between frequently pinned side and basted. In here, loops are a little bit uneven as one layer of fabric shifted, and the loops were meant to start and finish at the same place. However, couple of them have a gap. In contrast, the other side is even. Every single loop is a perfection. But you do you. It's your decision to make and your garment to wear. At this point, I recommend to try the dress on to ensure it fits the way you want to. Decide on the sleeve length. The corset area is already snatched, however, you can pull the waist in even more. For the sleeve hemline, just serge the edge, fold at desired length and stitch in place on the sewing machine or by hand. My choice. I like the clean look. Pull the thread through the fabric and tie a knot. Pick a couple of threads and pull the needle through. Reinsert the needle into the hemline edge and pull it through. Keep stitches loose, just because the fabric is stretchy. Stretch it time to time and secure the thread few times at different segments. So if the thread snaps, only a segment of hemline will get undone. Next, neckline. Fold in half. Stitch two ends together on the sewing machine at foot distance. Press open, fold in half, pin, stitch at the very edge to hold both layers together. Evenly pin at quarter points, both. You can use more pins and points if you wish. Align at marks, pin, and serge while stretching. How to serge in circle is explained in detail in the sweatshirt video. I'll leave the link down below. And voila! So the bodice of the dress is complete in just 4 hours and 26 minutes. Pockets. There are 2 large pieces, 2 medium, and 2 small pieces out of the primary fabric. Medium and small pieces together form a back pocket. So basically, when you insert your hand in, on top is the soft cotton, while behind it is a piece of primary fabric, so when the pocket opens, the cotton is covered. Place small and medium pieces right sides together and serge. Press the seam allowance towards the cotton and top stitch. Place the pocket with primary fabric to the back skirt at the notches. Pin and stitch at the foot distance. Top stitch the seam allowance towards the pocket. Repeat the same for all 4 pocket openings. Place both skirts right sides together. Pin along the edge, including the pockets, and baste. Again, it's optional, but my fabric is incredibly slippery, so had to hand baste along the edge. Then overlock. On curves on top and bottom, I machine stitch at foot distance, as I just couldn't get close enough on overlocker. Pin skirt and bodice right sides together, baste at side seams and serge all around, and let it hang for a day. Skirt sides are cut on a bias, and depending on material it may unevenly stretch. My flowy, gorgeous skirt stayed the same. However, if yours changes, trim it evenly. On both sides there are pocket holders, a straight piece of ribbon hand stitched to the pocket seam and the waistline, so that pockets don't bunch up somewhere at sides. And for the hemline, serge, fold, pin and stitch all around. At side seams, fold the overlocked seam to the different directions. In the back thread the loops. I have threaded 2 loops in the same time, just for better stability. Just pull and snatch. To make the ribbon out of the primary fabric, grab a 3-meter long piece of fabric, the longer the better. For demo purpose I use short and wide scrap of fabric. Fold in half right sides together and stitch on the sewing machine, while slightly stretching the tie to B. In my case I stitched at 5 mm. Seam allowance 1 centimeter. Trim the seam allowance for a flat rope or keep it for a full rounded effect. Pin a safety pin at the edge and thread it through. It's a very long process, but in the end it's worth it. Trimmed, not trimmed. It's not as visible in the video as in real life, but I'll do my best to show the difference. To make this dress, with partial picture and video taking, took me 7 hours, 59 minutes and 17 seconds. After the work is done, treat your machines with love and clean them properly. If you have any questions regarding this dress, leave a comment and I will respond as fast as I can. Hope you have a great year and oh, almost forgot, like and subscribe or else, when you attempt a robbery at Christmas, a little kid will kick your assets. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.